Good morning and welcome to the class today. So, in the subject Pedagogy of a School Subject History, we are today going to discuss the correlation, its meaning, its importance, and the various types of correlation, and how history as a subject is related with other school subjects. So, this is the topics which we are going to discuss today: the introduction and meaning, the definition part, importance and significance of correlation, principles of correlation, types, what are the different types. So, this is how we are going to learn about that no subject can be learned in isolation. No subject is ever well understood, and no art is intelligently practiced if the light which the other studies are able to throw upon it is deliberately shut out. So, this is the reason we stress on the concept of correlation, how we need to correlate the subjects with each other. So, education, we all know, is a coordinated process, and the major aim of education is the unification of knowledge. This term has to be emphasized. Existing in the different branches of learning, not only in history, but other branches also need to be unified. So, teaching of various subjects is hence correlated. So, the to achieve such a conscious effort for the unification, the teachers need to teach various subjects. They treat the subject as a synthetic whole. So, how did this idea came into mind that why the subject should not be taught in isolation and it should be taught in the form of correlation, correlating with each other? The examples should be given in various classes regarding each other subjects. So, Herbert first conceived the idea of correlating the teaching of various subjects, and he said, all knowledge is one unit. So we need to understand as a teacher, particular teacher of a particular subject, that we need to know about the other subjects also. We have to tell the students that we are not learning this subject in isolation. We have to consider the ideas, the examples, the experiments of other subjects also. So we have to use the knowledge of the other subjects in one class. So all knowledge is one unit. It's just only for the purpose of uh, uh, timetable, so that our subjects are taught differently, and our students gain all round development in all areas. The subjects are given other names and they are taught separately by special subject experts, but we have to know that all knowledge is one unit only. So we can say the power of mind does not depend on the amount of information accumulated in pieces. So if the information is given to us in pieces, in points, sometimes our mind will not be able to accumulate that knowledge, not be able to retain that knowledge. If it is not related to one another, the mind of the students will question that if these things are not interrelated, then why we are learning this, and how we can unify these pieces of knowledge which are being given to us in different pieces. So, knowledge information is rather an well organized system. So, on which all these pieces of knowledge are taught, showing their relationship with one another. So, this is known as the principle of correlation. Later on, Giller made this theory of correlation more elaborate. Then De Gamo and John Dewey laid stress on the integration in the teaching of various subjects. So today, if we look at the scenario, the correlating of teaching of different subjects is considered highly essential. We need to know that this is a very important part of our teaching learning process, and without this, we are doing injustice to our students. Now we will take a deeper look in the concept of correlation. So if we see it in a simplest form, correlation means to connect or to be connected, co-related. To be more precise, correlation means mutual relations of two or more things or persons. So, but if we take a look of the correlation, the meaning of correlation in the context of teaching, it indicates a technique which shows the reciprocal relationship between various subjects of the curriculum so that the knowledge can be made concrete and permanent in the minds of our learners. It is the conscious effort made by teachers teaching various subjects so that they can show the similarities or the dependence or the independence of one subject on another. So, this is very important. So, we can say that the teacher educators need to understand that uh, the subjects are not isolated, they don't have their special identity. We need to show that to the our teacher trainees that the subject should be taught as a one part. We should show the similarities between the different subjects, how they are depending on each other. We should try to think of more and more examples which could be given while correlating our subjects. Let us take a look at few definitions. Simpson and Kafka said, correlation analysis deals with the association between two or more variables. So variables are the two things which we are going to relate, two parts we are going to relate. For example, we want to relate the knowledge of uh, formation of clouds in science, and also that in the subject geography. So both the subjects deal with the same topic, but in a different approaches. So there, the two variables can be connected, the two subjects can be connected, and with this we can create an association, and this is how we can do the correlation analysis. Then Ferguson says correlation is concerned with describing the degree of relation between variables. How much to which level we have to go through while correlating. This is also said that it is not compulsory or mandatory to correlate every time each topic or each variable. Sometimes it can be in the variety, in the level of degree we can see, in highest degree, in lower degree, or an average degree, what we want to see. So in this correlation can also be done. Then A.M. Tolle said, correlation is an analysis of covariation between two or more variables. So here we can say that in the teaching field, the correlation is thus a mutual relationship between various variables. That is the subjects of school or the college curriculum. So this we have to understand. Now, how the correlation significance came into light. The most significant development of the 21st century education is the emphasis on imparting unified, integrated, and meaningful knowledge to the pupils. So, imparting of knowledge in the isolated facts of history, geography, science, economics, or the various other subjects, etc., has become obsolete. It is not useful. A child's mind is an integrated whole which wants to receive experiences in an integrated manner. So it should be correlated with each other, then only a child's mind will be able to receive the information which you are giving them, and also will be able to retain that for a longer time. It will become a permanent knowledge for them. Now we will take a look at the uses of correlation. So the first use is mind perceives knowledge as a whole. This is a psychological fact that if we give any information to the student or our learners, their minds try to perceive the knowledge as a whole. They will not be able to retain the knowledge which is given only in pieces and which is not related to each other. So all the subjects aim to develop the intellectual power of the students as a whole. So we know that all the subjects have their importance. Therefore, it becomes necessary to correlate one subject with another. No subject can be taught in isolation. This we have to repeat, that we cannot teach any subject with isolation. Then the next use is the retention of earlier knowledge. What we need to do? Whatever pieces of knowledge or the fragments of knowledge we have given to the students in different layers, they have to be accumulated at one place. They have to be integrated. So if we faces failure in establishing links between the current layers of knowledge and the previous ones, it may create an obstacle to retention of earlier knowledge. So what is the biggest formula for this retention of earlier knowledge? Always link old knowledge with the new one. So this is how, this is not only we have to correlate knowledge with other subjects, we can do that with within our subject also. For example, in history, we can correlate ancient history with the medieval part, or the medieval history with the modern part, or the modern part with the world history part. So this is, here we can see the learning pyramid on the right side, where the average student retention rates is different. So if they are only taught through lecture, they will retain only 5%. If reading part is included, then their mind will retain up to 10%. If some audio visual part is shown to them, then 20%. And if demonstration is done, then maybe their mind will retain up to 30%. If discussion is done, then it will lead to 50%. And if they have to do also, learning by doing is done, then it is 75%. And if it is applied for immediate use, if the knowledge is correlated, whatever is taught in the above parts before, if it is correlated, if they teach each other, if they learn by cooperative learning, if they do works in in groups with their peers, the other students in the class, then we can say that they are correlating their knowledge, and they are definitely going to retain this knowledge or the information for a longer time. So this is why we use the previous knowledge, and this we have to learn. As a teacher, we have to learn that we need to link the previous knowledge of the students with the new knowledge which you are giving them, so that they can relate with the knowledge. Then the next use is correlation of use of correlation is useful knowledge. Knowledge is useful when it can be applied to day-to-day life. Of course, if we are not being able to use the knowledge in our day-to-day life, in our day-to-day problems, or whatever circumstances arises before us, so then we will think that this knowledge is useless, and slowly it will go away from our mind. So it will not be retained for a longer period in our mind. Correlation of a subject with daily life helps to make the knowledge broad-based, and it makes the knowledge useful. So the students must know that whatever knowledge or information they are being given, this is useful. Even in the pieces it is given, it is useful. So this depends on the strategy adopted by the teacher, that how they make the knowledge useful for their learners. It helps to achieve unity of knowledge. So another use of correlation is it develops worthy interest and attitudes in students for acquiring knowledge, because it provides the practical and life related learning to the students. So this is the basic goal of our education. This is the basic goal of the curriculum which we prepare for teaching our students, that we need to provide them practical knowledge, and also that should be useful in our daily life. For example, the subjects, for example, the students of particular subjects do not like other subjects. Like they, some students like science subject and they dislike the literature part or the language part. So this we can feel in our higher education system also, that after going through the specific knowledge of the subjects in school level, when they reach at the higher level, they do not have any connection with the earlier previous knowledge. They don't know the general knowledge areas. They don't know about our country. They don't know about their rights. They don't know how to correlate with other subjects also. They have been taught like this in traditional way, that their subject is the whole and soul for them, and they have to go through the concepts only of these subjects. So this is not true. This is why we talk about the emotional aspect. This is why we talk about the social aspect, physical aspect. So education is the all-round development of the students. It is not only the content aspect we need to develop in our students. So learning, what is learning? It's all about the connection. We need to connect with the concepts. We need to connect with the internet or the technology. We need to find out the new things. If anything is coming in our mind, we need to go and find out on Google. We need to connect past, present, and future. So this is why every subject has their importance. We need to connect with the human networks, social connections. We need to connect to the objects so that we can prepare a new thing. And we can innovate new things. We need to connect with oneself. We need to introspect ourselves. We need to do the self evaluation. We need to make connections with human and social connections. We need to connect with our mind. We need to prepare the neural connections. So this is how the learning part will go on. So this is how learning is all about the connections with each other, and based on this principle only the correlation will take place. This we were talking about the all-round development. So the aim of education is to achieve the development of an all-round personality. It cannot be done by teaching only a few subjects, that too in isolation. So we need to develop the holistic part of our learners, whether it is spiritual part, mental part, emotional, physical, social, related to curriculum, related to content. We cannot leave any part in isolation. So that is why every subject should have these aspects. Every subject should try to cover these aspects. That is why we can say that language is also a part of each subject. We cannot diminish the importance of language in any subject. When we will learn about the integration or the correlation of history subject with other subjects, then we will come to know that history also cannot be just be taught in the social aspect or in relation with only with the social studies subjects. It also develops the mental abilities. Correlation will develop abilities like imagination power, logical thinking, analytical power of the students, because they can easily correlate one acquired knowledge with the other. They will try to find out more. They will try to develop their mental capabilities. Next use is the correlation strengthens skills that students encounter in one content area, but also they practice in another, leading to mastery of those skills. Like, for example, skill of making graphs in maths and economics, or we can say the use of maps in history and geography. We cannot say that it will only be used in the subject geography. So this is how one or the other aspect will contrast in each other subject. So the skills of the students will be strengthened by such encounters. It makes learning concrete and permanent. When the students will learn that the subjects which they are learning in different periods according to the timetable, these all are not different. They are very much related to each other. The teachers also try to make the subjects integrated. The student should feel that whatever they have learned in the last class, they can correlate with that thing in their present class. Even whatever subject they are learning, every subject can be correlated. So this will make their learning concrete and permanent. It makes the lesson easy and clear. So this is the maximum purpose of our teachers, that they want their lessons to be easy and clear. So for this, they prepare many things before the class. This is the process which they have to follow if they want to make their learners capacities to be enhanced. So they identify the learning objectives before the class. They plan the specific learning activities, what kind of assessment they will take place, what will be the sequence of the lesson, how they will create a realistic demonstration or the content in presentation in front of the students, how they will close the lesson, what kind of activity they will do to create interest among the lesson. So these are all the planning parts they have to do. Then during the class, they need to share the lesson plan with the students. They interpret whatever they have planned. They try to engage the students. They try to bring attention of the student on the topic, on the content. And then after the class, their role has not stopped after the class also. They have to reflect on what has worked well through feedback or the evaluation part, why, what you could have done differently, how they can improve in the next lesson, how the students' learning can be made more easy and clear. So some hard work has to be done by the teacher also if they have to follow this concept. So for this, correlation will definitely help. It helps to enable the students to acquire knowledge in a short period of time. The teacher may struggle to teach student the concept, make them understand the concept. So it may take a longer period of time sometimes for all the students of the class, because all the students will not understand at a time. So for this, they can plan something in which way they can ask their students to acquire knowledge, and that too in a short period of time, within that period which they have planned earlier. It develops various human and social qualities. Yes, if they correlate, it will help in developing interest. It will help in developing certain qualities like cooperation, the responsibility towards becoming a good citizen. Various kinds of responsibilities or abilities can be developed among the students to respect each other, the social equality, the truth, the prediction of future, etiquettes, performance, morals, the virtues, purpose, their attitude can be changed, the acceptance of the things which they were not earlier acquainted with, the fairness, the criteria, the justification, motivation, honesty, whatever values which the teachers want their students to learn, they will learn through their teaching part only. They will learn when they will honestly show their virtues, try to develop virtues in the students of their class. The next use we can say is it helps to lighten the burden of curriculum. Also, the student which have when they have learned the same topics in other classes, it will help the other teacher also, because they have some previous knowledge regarding that. They will be happy to relate with that. So it will lighten the burden of curriculum from the teacher's shoulders. Example, economics teacher, if they have taught the law of demand and supply, a commerce teacher may not have to again teach it from the beginning. Now they can utilize by correlating this thing with that subject which they have earlier learned already in the class. The next use is it helps the teacher to complete the curriculum in a very short period of time. Yes, if it has lightened the burden of the curriculum, then the teacher will also find it easy to complete the topics, the content, or the curriculum in a short period of time. So it all depends on the planning and the things which the teacher have perceived in their mind. Now, there are certain principles which need to be followed by correlating one content with another content, with one subject with another subject, or the content of one class, one subject with another subject of this other class. So the first principle is it should be simple, natural, suited to the nature of the subject, and according to the level of pupil's mental development. So this is very important, that a teacher, for the sake of correlation, cannot correlate just by saying the subject which need to be taught, the content which need to be taught in 8th class, and they are correlating the subject, the content area of the 9th class or the 10th class or the much higher classes. So it should be simple, It should not feel that it is done by force. It should be natural and suited according to the mental levels of the students. It should be adequate and judicious. It should be done in the right way, and it should be done in the proper manner, adequate manner. Also, main topic or main subject should be the main focus. So this is not that they have to correlate. Just teachers have been taught that they have to correlate, so they will go for various topics to be correlated, and the whole class is just taught in an haphazard manner. So other topics or subjects should be linked to it, and then again revert back to the main topic. This is not that you will teach and you will go to a different topic or flow in the different topic or reach to a different point. So you need to learn that whenever you are correlating, you have to correlate with other topics or other content, or in which way you have thought about it. But you need to come back to your main topic, main subject, and it should be the main focus for you. Also, the next principle is, when doing systematic correlation, teachers could sit together and discuss how to correlate. So this can be done with the help of team teaching method also. So maybe all teachers do not know that whatever is happening in other subjects. So for this, what they can do, the subjects which they are teaching, if an economics teacher wants to correlate few things in commerce class and with the commerce teacher or in their own class, they can talk with the teacher, subject teacher, and they systematically correlate that whatever topics have been covered, whatever examples have been given by the certain subject teachers, they can discuss about that, and they can after that they can do that in their classes, or they can take combined classes. So they can systematically discuss, and they can sit together for this purpose. The next principle is, it should involve the previous knowledge of the students. Yes, if they do not know what you are going to correlate, so it will be a wasteful effort for them and for you also. So you should know that whatever they have already learned, or whatever they are being taught in the classes after discussing with the particular subject teachers, you need to correlate with the previous knowledge of the students. So you need to activate their prior knowledge, whatever they know, and then you put in the new knowledge, the new concepts, so that they can do it in a whole way. They can learn it in a whole way. So it should be done only where it is possible. This is very important principle to be followed. So just we have told you that you have to correlate. It does not mean that you have to correlate each and everything. Sometimes there will not be any issue of correlating. There will not be any situations of correlation. But it should be done whenever it is possible. So otherwise it will only lead to a superficial correlation. Example, the study of the voyage of Columbus cannot lead to the correlating with the ocean currents. This is irrelevant. Or the invasion of Alexander we cannot relate it with the calculation of the expenses, the economic condition. So this all things are different. There is a thin line between this. So we have to understand this, that how we are correlating, and it should be useful. It should not be superficial. Now we will discuss about the types of correlation. So basically, broadly, we can see there are three types of correlation. That is correlation with practical life, horizontal or external correlation, or vertical or internal correlation. So here we can see through this Venn diagram that these all are also interrelated. It is not always that we will be correlating with practical life. Sometimes we can do horizontal and vertical at the same time also. So correlation with practical life is generally of the given subject with the daily life activities, with the real life which they are facing in the problems what they are going through. So this is with the practical life. Then the vertical or the internal correlation means that correlation can be established between the different branches of a given subject. So it can also be done. There are various branches of a particular subject. So it can done, for example, in SST, there are 4 branches, 4 parts of SST. So we can vertically interrelate with each other. Then there is the horizontal or the external correlation, which can be done between the given subject and the other subjects. So this is how we can explain briefly about these 3 types of correlation. Now we will go in detail regarding the types. That is the correlation with practical life. So according to Herbert Spencer, the main aim of education is to prepare students for future life. And the aim can be achieved only if education is correlated with the life. So therefore, teaching of various subjects should be correlated with various aspects of life. So a subject is best understood when it is applicable to daily life. So correlation of a subject with daily life is of the utmost importance in order to create interest in the subject. So correlation with daily life makes the subject relevant instead of being only theory with no practical applications. So here the student will be able to judge that whatever they are being taught in the class, it can be used in the real life also. They can feel in the real life also. It can be applied with the practical life. For example, in maths, apply the formulas to calculate areas of rectangle or square to calculate areas of their classroom or their home. So they can apply that. In science, if we see, give evidences of the scientific phenomena. For example, give the example of the droplets which are formed in an AC car, or the use of aluminium foil to pack foods to explain its oxide forming property. So we can see the droplets which are there in the AC car when the AC is working during the humidity. And we can also see the aluminium foil which we use for packing the hot foods. There are also droplets. So what is the connection between that? So they are able to relate the principles, the theory, and they will know what property is followed by each and everything. Then we move on to next type, that is vertical or internal correlation. So this type of correlation indicates the relationship between different branches or various divisions of a given subject. It also includes correlation of different topics in the same branch of a given subject. So correlation of old knowledge with new knowledge. So here we can correlate like we have discussed the ancient part which we have discussed earlier in the classes with the modern part. So branches of a subject many a times are taught by different teachers such that each branch is treated as a different entity. Sometimes it happens that in 7th standard the subject history is taught by some other teacher, and in 8th subject it is taught by some other teacher. So here the vertical or the internal correlation can be done between the subject. So internal correlation is necessary for continuity of knowledge and understanding of the subject. If we have to teach them, if we have to compare the subject or the content with the earlier part which they have learned already, so we have to do that, the internal correlation between among the subject. For example, a commerce teacher can take help of vertical correlation to make his students understand about trade, internal trade, external trade, and export-import procedures. An economics teacher can take help of vertical correlation to correlate production, consumption, distribution, exchange, which are all parts of economics but taught in different manner in different variety of subjects. A science teacher uses vertical correlation to correlate physics and chemistry, or chemistry and biology and physics, or biology and physics. So these all are comprised of one subject, that is general science. So it can be correlated with each other. Like in SST subject, social studies, the 4 subjects can be correlated with each other internally. A mathematics teacher would use vertical correlation to correlate arithmetic and algebra, or algebra and geometry. So these are all parts of mathematics subject only. A history teacher would use vertical correlation to correlate history of early age to ancient, or medieval or modern, or to correlate political history to economic history, or social history, or to correlate ancient history to economic history or world history to local history. So this can be done. For this, a teacher need not to be trained separately. This comes naturally. A geography teacher would use vertical correlation to correlate physical geography with human geography or economic geography, with political geography or physical geography with historical geography. So these all are parts of one subject only, but there are divisions in the different subjects, different parts of the subjects. A language teacher would use vertical correlation to correlate poetry, prose, grammar, composition. These all have different meanings. These all have different parts, and they are taught differently also, but they can be correlated vertically. Then the next type is horizontal external correlation. So this type of correlation is between different school subjects and a given school subject. So all subjects of the school curriculum contribute towards the realization of the aims of education. So while discussing the horizontal correlation, an attempt is made to coordinate the teaching of various subjects, and this is done by three methods, that is the causal correlation, systematic correlation, and concentric correlation. So let us discuss now the three methods of horizontal correlation. In causal or the incidental correlation, teacher plays a dominant role. It is not planned or pre-decided one. So no deliberate or conscious effort or systematic effort attempt is made for correlating. If a learned teacher has versatile knowledge of basic elements of different subjects, this kind of correlation is bound to take place. And with the learning experiences in the classrooms, with the increasing experience, the teacher tends to make use of causal and incidental correlation naturally. So, for example, in the subject economics, a teacher who is teaching production of cloth may explain to the students the geographical factors like soil, climate, that are responsible for the production of the raw material, that is cotton, which is used for cloth. Or in history, a teacher teaching success of Shivaji would tell about the geographical conditions of that place, that why Shivaji was successful in all his war strategies due to geographical conditions of that area. Then the next method in horizontal correlation is conscious, systematic, or the planned correlation. So it is planned beforehand, consciously, and in a systematic manner. Here, the teacher does not enlightens students with certain ideas. They have planned beforehand. So teacher makes deliberate attempt to teach a particular topic in such a way that he may go on explaining other things as well along with it. So it is systematic. So previous study is made by the teacher on the points that has to be correlated with other topics in other subjects. So here the proper planning is done by the teacher. It is not casual. So materials of other subjects are chosen in such a manner that while teaching, they can be brought in use at the time of need. To overcome in some measures all the effects of treating every subject in watertight compartments, a system of pre-planned correlation should be devised. For example, in history, if a teacher wants to teach the history of Indus Valley civilization, he has to explain the climate and the effect of the climate on the civilization before telling about the development and the reasons for the downfall of this civilization. Then the next method is concentric correlation. And this theory put forward that not only appropriate subjects could be correlated, but there was probably some one subject which would form the core around which all others could be hinged. So Gillard thought of history as a subject that could be the core subject of all. So some others recommend science as the core subject or handicraft as the core subject. So this is the concentric kind of correlation in which one subject is being considered as the core subject and the other subjects revolve around them. Now we will discuss the correlation of history with other disciplines. So various eminent scholars have discussed about the correlation of history. Where here we can see that Trevelyan has said history is not a subject at all, but a house in which all subjects dwell. So it is a house where all other subjects concentrate. So history is the core one, and the other subjects dwell around this subject. Firdausi says poetry paints what history describes. So he has related history with the poetry, that in history subject the things are described, and in poetry the things are painted in lovely words. Vive said history is the one study which gives birth or nourishes, develops, and cultivates all art collected from history, philosophy, and a part of theology. So he tries to connect history, interrelate history with philosophy and theology also. This is how other people has also thought that history cannot be taught in isolation, and it has background from social sciences also, it has background from humanities. So from these views we can say that it is sufficiently clear that history is a subject, is a junction where all other subjects meet. So through correlation, while teaching history, we teach something of literature, something of art, something of politics, something of economics, and various other subjects. So first of all, we will take a look of correlation of history with literature. So history provides material, inspiration, and background of contemporary events, conditions to literary persons. So, in its turn, literature throws a light on popular taste, moral, intellectual standards, prejudices, ideals, inspirations of a nation. So, whatever has been written in description, in the forms of poets, in the forms of stories, in the forms of books, or by the court historians of various rulers, it all is literature. In the form of dramas, poems, this all interprets the sentiments and the feelings which have been expressed through literature. So it makes the combination of history and literature as vital. Then the correlation of history with language. So teaching languages has various stories taken out from different pages of history. Students are quite frequently required to write essays on topics of historical importance. So, oral and written expression is very essential. Language is not only a part of history, actually, it is part of all subjects. So, in learning history, we provide opportunities to the students for discussing, speaking about their thoughts, debating, paper reading, narrating their experiences. So, this is how language is related with history. Then correlation with history and art. So here the students are required to draw the various pictures regarding the graphs, use the various maps for showing the places. They prepare timelines, they prepare time charts, they come to find out about the various styles of architecture and art, paintings, various buildings. So here they try to learn about the differences in various eras. So the students and the teachers make use of various projects, and various models and teaching aids are prepared. So this makes subject interesting and delightful. So, for example, the paintings of Ajanta and Ellora are presented through art. Taj Mahal represents the whole reign of Shah Jahan, the unique style of architecture. It very clearly indicates the history of the economic conditions of that period. Coins, arms, and other pieces of art are helpful in ascertaining the history of that period. So, various kinds of conditions, the various kinds of art which took place in Gupta period, Buddha period, Mughal period, it all is interrelated with history. Then the correlation between history and physical sciences. So through history, we have come to know about the development and progress of science. Development of science has taken a long period, and it may take generations and centuries to evolve and reach perfection. So it is history that tells us how much has actually been done, what still remains to be done. So a history teacher works very closely with the science teacher when any kind of scientific invention has to be narrated, any biography of any eminent scientist has to be told to the students, the impact of the scientific development on human society. So this is how the history and physical sciences are interrelated. Correlation between history and theology. Theology is related to the study of religion, also the political upheavals, the religious feelings, the religious reformations. Knowledge of history is also helpful for the knowledge of theology. So it is the history that gives us the knowledge about the spread and importance of religion in a certain period or certain periods. So this is also a very important part. Then the correlation between history and handwork. While teaching history, we make use of models, charts, pictures, toys, etc., etc. Teaching aids are an essential part of the teaching of history. These aids are the product of craft or handwork. The most important educational slogan of the day is learning by doing. So it involves the handwork. So the general development of a child's mind is quite effective in teaching of history. History with social studies, this we have discussed that all four subjects are interrelated with history. The For example, role of division of labor, resources and borrowing of ideas. It may be used to explain changes in family life, communities and nations in different periods of time. History and statistics. So, historical demography, like information regarding the movement of people, the births and deaths, fertility rates, immigrations. It cannot be possible without the means to process and correlate the vast and complex data made available by various official records. So, a new branch called cliometrics has come into vague, according to which the use of mathematics has come into greater play in the writing of history and interpretation of the numerous sources. History and psychology. A historian must have to show some psychological insights while making an analysis of the motive and the actions of the men and societies of the previous times. So, as a result of the influence of psychology, historians have undertaken the study of the results and the impact of the war. So, it is very useful to understand the psychology of the people of the society of that time. History and political science. So they are very much interrelated because Freeman has said history is past politics and politics is present history. Whereas Seeley said history without political science has no fruit and political science without history has no root. So this is how these subjects are interrelated deeply with each other. So the study of history essentially needs a study of the political implications of all historical events and developments in each society. History gets reduced to a mere narration of events, episodes, and developments. History depends upon political science for getting knowledge about the political dimensions of the historical events. For example, the Indian national movement, it was a mix of political events and historical background. So history of political institutions constitutes a rich area of study to history. Then the history and geography. So they are allied subjects because geography is also a part of SST. Geography prepares a stage where the human life started. Man creates his physical environments, and geography describes this environment alone with the work of men. So, right from the 17th century, correlation between these two subjects has been emphasized. The discovery of different countries of the world, the colonization, which helped the people to change the world to suit their purpose, the development of science, industries, and commerce, how they have affected it. Hence, when we read the history of the world, of human life and activities at the same time, we also study which geographical the conditions of men is determined by other geographical conditions. So this is how we discussed about the various uses, principles, the types of correlation, and also how history as a subject is correlated with various subjects. So these are the references which you need to go through so that you can find out more about the history, relation of history with other subjects, how as a history teacher you can relate the subject with other subjects. Now we will move on to our next part, that is the evaluation questions. Question number 1 is dash first conceived the idea of correlating the teaching of various subjects. The options are Giller, Herbert, Dewey, and Srivastava. And the answer is Herbert. He was the one who said that the knowledge is one. It should be treated as whole knowledge should be treated as one. Question number 2 is the involvement of dash in teaching of history helps to coordinate the activities of hand and mind. So which subject do that? The options are handwork, science, economics, or maths. And the right answer is handwork, because by this the students learn by doing. The next question is, who gave this definition? History is not a subject at all, but a house in which all subjects dwell. So this definition, the options are Trevelyan, Firdaus, Ferguson, or Giller. So here we can see that the answer is Trevelyan, who said that history is the core subject and all other subjects revolve around it. The next question is, identify the incorrect method for horizontal or external correlation. The options are causal, systematic, concentric, or divergent. So here we can see the first three options are the methods of horizontal correlation, and divergent is not the correct answer. Next question is, correlation assumes that no subject can be taught in dash. Classroom, isolation, unity, or elaboration. So this we have discussed that no subject can be taught in isolation. It needs to be taught with the help of integration or correlating with other subjects. The next question is, correlation between the different branches of a given subject is known as? The options are vertical internal correlation, horizontal correlation, integrated correlation, or systematic correlation. And the answer is vertical or the internal correlation. So when we try to correlate between the different branches of a given subject, that is known as vertical or internal correlation. So we have discussed among the different types of correlation, in which we know that horizontal correlation is done between the other subjects. Question number 7 is, correlation does not help in developing following mental abilities. So certain mental abilities are developed with the help of correlation, and which one is not developed? The options are imagination power, logical thinking, analytical power, or the writing skill. So the answer is writing skill. Writing skill is not the focus of actually correlating using correlation. The first three options are the main mental abilities which we have to develop in our students. Correlation with practical life means, what does it mean? The options are correlation of the given subject with daily activities, correlation with other classes, correlation with school administration, integration with teachers. The correct answer is correlation of the given subject with daily activities. So this is the meaning of the term correlation with practical life. Question number 9 is, who said history without political science has no fruit? Political science without history has no root. So the options are Seeley, Freeman, Lincoln, or Giller. So the correct answer is Seeley. Seeley said history without political science has no fruit, because they are interrelated so much with each other that the events, the other things depends on each other. Question number 10 is, the term in its simplest form means connect or to be connected. So what is the term which means this? The options are correlation, presentation, transition, or affection. And the correct answer is correlation. So correlation in the simplest term means connect or to be connected. So this, in teaching area, we can say that the connection should be established between the different subjects. And this we have discussed that how we can do that. We have discussed various examples also for that. So as a teacher with experience, we will try to use all these kinds of methods while with the help of plans in a systematic manner, or casual manner, or an incidental manner. So with this, we come to the end of the topic. Thank you very much. And we will see you in the next class.